So Manchester United, always plenty to talk about with them. Antoine Semenyo was a player they were pursuing in the offseason. Renewed his contract with Bournemouth. Out clause now in January. So we begin the discussions once again. What's the latest with Manchester United and their pursuit of Semenyo?
Yeah, the latest news, Ahmed, which I broke on the 23rd of December, is that Antoine Semenyo's preference is to join Manchester City in the January transfer window. It's not a done deal just yet. And of course, City will need to agree personal terms with Semeno and also negotiate the payment terms of the £65 million release clause that is in his Bournemouth contract. And we would expect formal steps to be taken in the days ahead, with the January transfer window opening on the 1st of next month. I think his decision was made to compete for and win trophies, which Manchester City tend to do, to work under the great Pep Guardiola. And also it's fair to say he'll earn a lot more wherever he would have gone if he was going to be leaving Bournemouth. And that's not a small consideration for somebody who has come through rejection and the lower leagues. Pep Guardiola was involved in the pursuit and talks, which I think would be pretty convincing for any player who is looking at joining one of the top clubs. And it will be really interesting to see what City do next in terms of potential outgoings. Maybe Oscar Bob could leave the club, but I'm assured the likes of Savinho and Marmoush are staying put. They have no desire to see them go. They want to use all of their available resources to challenge to win trophies yet again this season. There was a lot of speculation over whether Liverpool would come in after the injury to Alexander Isak, but ultimately he has leaned towards Manchester City. There was strong interest from Manchester United. They did push hard, but ultimately it's pretty difficult for them to compete when they don't have European football at the moment for these top players. Tottenham were earliest and they came with a very strong personal terms offer, but ultimately he decided against them. Chelsea made a late push, but they didn't take it any further. And Arsenal would have presented a really strong possibility. I think from speaking to the other clubs involved, that's who were potentially his first choice, but they would have wanted to do it in the summer. And I think he would have wanted guarantees that they couldn't provide at this moment in time. Strike while the iron's hot and look to do a move now. So that's what it's going to be by the looks of it. Bournemouth are searching for potential replacements. We'll see what they do on that front. But Antoine Semenyo is possibly going to be the biggest transfer of the January window, certainly in the days ahead. So we should hear more very soon.
Yeah, so David, the way you describe it there, Manchester United to miss out again on Semenyo. So if that is the case, where do they go from here?
Yeah, with Semenyo, I think it was more a market opportunity, Ahmed. They wanted to sign him rather than necessarily focusing immediately on that position. It doesn't mean that they will definitely go for an alternative for that wide attacking role now or in the summer. But I do think it is on the agenda to fill it at some point, because you've got the likes of Rashford potentially leaving when his Barcelona loan expires, and also Jadon Sancho as well. So there is scope for that left attacking role to be filled going forward at Manchester United. Their primary focus, however, is the midfield area and that number 6 position. You never say never, but I'm not sure that's going to happen in January. I think the summer is far more likely. Why? Because the sort of players they're looking at and the price that they would come at makes January extremely hard to do. So we're talking about the likes of Elliot Anderson, of Adam Wharton, of Carlos Baliba. I think they'd be among, 5, 6 options that Manchester United will be studying for that role. They now have a period to navigate without many of their first choice players. Bruno Fernandes out injured, Kobbie Mainoo out injured, but I'm assured that they're both minor problems, so we should see them back soon. And Burmo and Ahmad at the Africa Cup of Nations, but they will return in January. The summer brings a much clearer football and financial position for Manchester United. They'll know where they finished in the league table. They'll know what finances they have at their disposal. The likes of Casemiro's contract expires. There is a club-held option to extend by 12 months. Harry Maguire's contract is expiring. The aforementioned Marcus Rashford, Rasmus Højlund could well move to Napoli on a permanent basis. The attraction of Semeno was that he had a release clause. It made it quick and easy if he favoured them. With others, it's going to be much tougher. And that's why January transfer activity at Manchester United inbound is not expected. Outbound, possibly, in terms of the likes of a Kobbie Mainoo or maybe more plausible Joshua Zirkzee. Although nothing is advanced on that, Manchester United need all of the players they have at their disposal. We've seen the likes of Ruben Neves and James Garner linked to them, but I'm not aware of anything concrete on that front. Manchester United have done a lot with their finances to put themselves in a better position. Job cuts, redundancies, and that gives them some manoeuvrability in the transfer market, but they will still need to be disciplined and try to act in a sustainable way. And that's why the summer is more likely to be busy than January. But let's see what the coming weeks bring.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.